The message appeared while my boyfriend was in the bathroom. Is that whale still talking? 3 laughing emojis followed it. For a few seconds, I honestly thought it had to be about something else. A joke, a video. Maybe some ridiculous clip his friends were sharing. Then I saw the name of the group chat, saw the voice note above the message, and felt something inside me go completely still. The voice in that recording was mine. That was the moment my relationship ended. Stuart just didn't know it yet. My name is Elena. I was 31 years old. At the time, I had a stable corporate job, my own downtown apartment, a BMW I had worked years to afford, and a boyfriend I believed I was building a future with. I wasn't perfect. I worked too much, worried too much, and sometimes talked too long when I was excited. But I loved deeply. When I cared about someone, I showed it. And for 9 months, I had shown Stuart everything. That Friday night had started like dozens before it. Stuart had a cold, so I made soup, tea, and turned our living room into his personal recovery room. We were watching an action movie on the charcoal, gray sectional I had saved months to buy. He was coughing, complaining about his sinuses, and accepting every bit of attention I gave him. At 9:03, his phone lit up between us. The preview from Jackson, his closest friend, said, "Is that whale still talking?" Stuart saw it at nearly the same moment I did. He grabbed his phone too fast. Then another coughing fit hit him. He rushed toward the bathroom, muttering that he needed tissues. In his hurry, he dropped the phone on the kitchen counter. And he forgot to lock it. I wish I could tell you I walked away. I wish I could say I trusted him enough to ignore the strange message, but trust doesn't erase instinct. The bathroom faucet started running. I stood, crossed the room, and looked at the glowing screen. The group was called The Boys. Jackson, Josiah, Johnny, and Stuart. The latest voice note had been sent by Stuart only minutes earlier. I tapped it. My own voice came through the speaker. Earlier that evening, I had been telling Stuart about a possible promotion at work. I had been excited. Proud. I had spent 3 years chasing that opportunity. Under the recording, Stuart had written that I never stopped talking and that listening to me was unbearable. I felt heat rush into my face. Then I scrolled. There were months of it, videos of me laughing on the couch. Photos taken when I didn't know anyone was watching. Audio clips from private moments in my own home. Every one of them had a cruel caption. They mocked my body. They mocked my laugh. They mocked the way I talked. And Stuart was leading it. I kept scrolling until I reached a conversation from July. Jackson had asked why Stuart stayed with me if he disliked me so much. Stuart's answer was simple. Because living with me was easy. He bragged that he lived in my apartment without paying rent. He used my BMW whenever he wanted. I bought groceries, cooked dinner, paid for trips, and covered little expenses because I thought he was struggling financially. He told them I was desperate for love. He laughed about the idea that I was imagining a future with him. Then I found another message about the PlayStation I had bought him for his birthday. One of his friends called Stuart an evil genius. Stuart agreed. He joked that even his gym membership was being paid for by me. I remember looking around the kitchen after reading that. The lights, the furniture, the food, the framed photographs. Everything had been built from my effort. And the man I had invited into that life had turned my kindness into material for a private comedy show. Then the bathroom faucet stopped. My entire body snapped into action. I pulled out my own phone and photographed the screen as fast as I could. Click, scroll, click, scroll. I didn't have time to process any of it. I just captured names, dates, messages, voice note labels, anything that showed the truth. The bathroom door opened. I put my phone in my pocket and reached for a glass. When Stuart entered the kitchen, I was filling it with water. He looked at me. Then he looked at his phone. "Everything okay?" he asked. His voice sounded casual, but his eyes were sharp. "Fine," I said. Your phone buzzed. I think Jackson texted. His shoulders relaxed. Probably fantasy football. He locked the screen immediately. Then he walked over, put an arm around me, and kissed my temple. "Come on," he said. "Let's finish the movie." I went back to the couch with him. For 2 hours, I sat beneath the arm of a man who had been secretly humiliating me for months. Every laugh from him sounded fake now. Every affectionate gesture felt rehearsed. I had spent months wondering when he might propose. Now I wondered how many lies could fit inside one person. I did not confront him that night. That surprised even me. I thought I would cry. I thought I would scream. Instead, something colder took over. If I accused him immediately, he could delete everything. He could tell everyone I misunderstood. He could call me jealous, dramatic, insecure, or crazy. So I smiled. And while Stuart watched the movie beside me, believing I was still the woman he could fool, I made one decision. Before I ended the relationship, I was going to learn the whole truth. I did not sleep that night. By morning, my sadness had turned into focus. Stuart walked into the kitchen like nothing had changed. He made coffee with my espresso machine, used my favorite mug, and asked if he could borrow my BMW to meet Jackson at the gym. Sure, I said, tossing him the keys. Have a good workout. He winked at me and left. The second the apartment door closed, I checked every room. I wasn't searching for revenge yet. I was searching for facts. His laptop was password protected. His iPad was not. I tried his birth year. It opened. The messages since from his phone filled the screen. The group chat was bad. His private conversation with Jackson was worse. 2 days earlier, Jackson had asked when Stuart planned to leave me. Stuart said he had changed his timeline. He wanted to stay through Christmas. Why? Because he expected expensive gifts. He had been hinting about a new watch, gaming equipment, and other things he wanted me to buy. In his words, he planned to get as much as possible before ending the relationship. I stared at the screen in disbelief. This wasn't a selfish boyfriend making a few ugly jokes. It was calculated. He had a schedule for using me. Then I found messages with his uncle Richard. Stuart had always told me he barely earned enough at Richard's auto parts business to cover gas. That was one reason I had paid for nearly everything when we traveled. But Richard's messages showed that Stuart had recently received a $5,000 bonus for helping manage regional accounts. He wasn't broke. He had simply learned that pretending to be broke made me generous. I copied the messages and saved them to a private cloud folder. Then another notification appeared. Bethany. The preview alone told me the relationship was worse than I had understood. I opened their conversation. Bethany was a woman from his gym. Stuart had mentioned her before, always describing her as someone who bothered him during workouts. The messages told a different story. They had been secretly seeing each other for weeks. He called her babe. He told her that I was just a complicated roommate situation. He promised that after the holidays, I would be out of the picture. I read those lines twice. He was not only using my money, he was building another relationship while sleeping in my home and planning how to leave me after Christmas. I saved everything. By then, my hands had stopped shaking. At lunch, I met my closest friend and coworker, Rachel, at a diner several blocks from the office. I showed her the screenshots. She went from confused to furious in less than a minute. End it today, she said. Change the locks, put his things out, be done. Part of me wanted to. But I knew Stuart. He was charming when he needed to be. He could lie smoothly. If I exploded without control, he would tell people I had invaded his privacy because I was insecure. He would make himself the victim and me the unstable girlfriend. I want the truth to speak for itself. I told Rachel. She studied me. What are you thinking? Christmas Eve, I said. My mother was already planning a large family dinner. Stuart's family would be there too. Rachel's eyes widened. Elena. I'm not going to scream, I said. I'm not going to threaten him. I'm going to let his own words explain who he is. For the next several days I lived two lives. In one, I was still Stuart's loving girlfriend. In the other, I was quietly documenting the end of our relationship. He came home from the gym smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. I still smiled. He claimed his hours at work had been cut and asked me to order dinner. I ordered the expensive Italian food he liked. He rested his head on my lap while we watched television. You seem quiet, he said. Just thinking about Christmas, I answered. I want it to be special. His face brightened. So do I? The irony nearly made me laugh. The next afternoon, while I was at work, my home security app sent me a motion alert. I opened the live feed. Stuart entered my apartment. Bethany was holding his hand. They walked through my living room and disappeared into my bedroom. I stared at the screen, frozen. For one terrible moment, the evidence felt different. Text messages could still feel abstract. Seeing another woman walk into my home made everything real. I screen recorded the security footage. Then I locked my phone, opened my work spreadsheet, and forced myself to finish the afternoon. That night, Stuart came home cheerful. He kissed my cheek and asked what we were doing for dinner. I looked at him and thought, you really believe I know nothing? That became my advantage. Over the weekend, he took me to the mall and said he needed new shoes for work. He found a pair that cost nearly $200. At the register, he simply stood there, waiting for me to pay. Before I knew the truth, I would have done it without thinking. This time I let the silence stretch. Are you short this week? I asked. His face changed for half a second. Then the helpless smile returned. Yeah, payroll is rough. Another lie. I paid for the shoes. Not because he deserved them, because I needed him comfortable. I needed him confident. Most of all, I needed him to keep underestimating me. A few days later, I ran into Jackson at the DMV. The timing felt almost unreal. He saw me in line and immediately walked over with a huge smile, acting like we were old friends. I knew exactly what he had said about me. I knew he had laughed at recordings taken inside my home. But I smiled back. We talked about traffic, the weather, and sports. He looked at me with the relaxed confidence of someone who believed he knew a secret I didn't. That night, I checked Stuart's iPad again. Jackson had taken a picture of me at the DMV without my knowledge and sent it to the group chat. He joked about my appearance. Then Stuart asked whether I had seemed suspicious. Jackson replied that I looked completely clueless. Stuart said I wasn't smart enough to catch on. I saved that message too. Those words changed something in me. Until then, part of me had still been grieving the man I thought I loved. After that, I stopped mourning him. You cannot lose someone who never truly existed. The next evening, Stuart began his Christmas campaign. We were sitting on the couch when he turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was an expensive ergonomic gaming chair. "My back has been killing me," he said. "This one is on sale." He explained every feature like a salesman. Then he paused. I knew what came next. "If it's too much," he added, "there are some noise-canceling headphones I really like." He had options. A full menu of gifts he expected me to fund. I pretended to consider them. "Christmas is coming," I said. "We'll see." The look in his eyes was pure satisfaction. 2 days later, I ran into his mother, Brenda, while shopping for groceries. Brenda had always been kind to me. She hugged me in the produce aisle and started talking excitedly about Christmas Eve. Then she lowered her voice. "Stuart has been asking about rings," she said. "He wanted to know what kind of diamond you like." For the first time in days, my plan almost fell apart. A ring. For half a second, my heart tried to create an excuse for him. Maybe he did love me somewhere beneath all of this. Maybe there was an explanation. Then I remembered the messages. He had told Jackson he was staying through Christmas for gifts. He had told Bethany he would be free soon. If he was talking to his family about engagement rings, it was probably another layer of the performance. Brenda smiled at me with such genuine hope that guilt hit me hard. She had no idea what her son had been doing. Neither did his uncle. Neither did my parents. The truth was going to hurt more people than Stuart, but hiding it would only protect him. That night, I told Stuart my mother wanted both families together for Christmas Eve dinner. His eyes widened. "Really? Really? Your mom, Uncle Richard, everyone?" He smiled almost instantly. "That would be amazing. The family's finally coming together." He thought he was walking into a celebration. I knew it would be an ending. The next day I called my older brother, Jasper. Jasper worked in cybersecurity and had always been the calm one in our family. He rarely raised his voice, which somehow made him more intimidating when he was angry. I showed him everything. The screenshots, the voice recordings, the messages with Jackson, the lies about money, the conversation with Bethany, the security footage. Jasper sat in silence for several minutes. Then he closed the laptop. "We're doing this carefully," he said. That was exactly what I needed to hear. No shouting, no threats, no chaos, just evidence. For the next 3 nights, while Stuart claimed he was at the gym, Jasper and I organized the material into a short video presentation. We kept it simple. First, happy photographs of Stuart and me together. Then his own messages. Then the recordings. Then the financial lies. Then Bethany. Finally, the security camera footage. There was no need for commentary. Stuart had already written the script himself. As Christmas Eve approached, he became almost impossible to tolerate. He kept dropping hints about gifts. He mentioned the chair again. Then the watch. Then headphones. He even sent me a link to a new jacket. I replied with heart emojis and told him I had Christmas handled. And I did. Christmas Eve arrived with light snow falling across the city. My parents' house was bright, warm, and crowded. Cars filled the driveway. My mother had decorated every room with lights and pine garlands. The kitchen smelled like turkey, cinnamon, and baked apples. Stuart looked happier than I had seen him in months. He brought flowers for my mother. He complimented my father. He joked with Uncle Richard. He hugged Brenda. He played the role of the perfect boyfriend so naturally that, for a moment, I wondered how many other parts of his life were performances. Dinner went beautifully. That was the strangest part. Everyone laughed. My father and Stuart debated sports. Brenda told stories about Stuart as a child. Jasper barely spoke. I could feel the laptop in his bag from across the room, even though I couldn't see it. After dessert, Jasper stood. "Before we open gifts," he said, "Elena and I made a little video about the year." Stuart's face lit up. "That's awesome." My stomach tightened. Everyone moved into the living room. Stuart stood beside me and wrapped his arm around my waist. The room lights dimmed. The television turned black. Soft music began. A photograph from our summer trip appeared on the screen. We were standing by the ocean, smiling like two people with nothing to hide. A message Stuart had once sent me appeared over it. "You're my forever." Brenda smiled. My mother whispered, "That's sweet." Then the image disappeared. The next screen held only 2 words. The truth. Stuart's arm froze around me. The first screenshot appeared, the boys' group chat. Jackson's message about me. Then Stuart's reply. No one spoke. The room changed instantly. It was as if all the warmth had been pulled out of it. Stuart moved his arm away from me. "What is this?" he said. The next screenshot appeared. A photo he had secretly taken of me on the couch. Then another. Then the recording of my voice from the night I had been talking about my promotion. His cruel caption appeared underneath. Brenda stopped smiling. My father leaned forward. Stuart looked at Jasper. "Turn it off." Jasper didn't answer. More messages appeared. The conversation where Stuart bragged about free rent, the BMW, the meals, the trips, the gym membership. His friends laughing about how easy it was to use me. Then came the messages about Christmas. The watch, the gaming chair, his plan to stay with me until after the holidays so he could collect expensive gifts. Uncle Richard stared at the screen. Stuart's face had gone pale. "This is taken out of context," he said. No one responded. Then the messages between Stuart and Richard appeared. The $5,000 bonus. The regional account work. Proof that Stuart had money while telling me he could barely afford gas. Richard's expression changed from confusion to disgust. "You told her you were broke?" he asked. Stuart opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then Bethany's name appeared on the screen. I watched Stuart realize what was coming. His entire body stiffened. "Elena," he said quietly. I looked at him for the first time since the presentation started. He wasn't angry yet. He was afraid. The messages between him and Bethany appeared one after another. He called her babe. He called me a situation he had to manage. He promised Bethany he would leave me after Christmas. Then the final clip played. My security camera showed Stuart walking into my apartment with Bethany beside him. They disappeared down the hall toward my bedroom. The screen went black. The room was silent. Not dramatic silence. Real silence. The kind where everyone is thinking the same thing but no one knows who should speak first. Brenda covered her mouth with both hands. My mother stared at me, devastated. My father looked at Stuart. Uncle Richard stood with his arms crossed. Stuart turned toward me. And finally, the fear became anger. "You went through my phone." That was his defense. Not that the messages were fake, not that he hadn't betrayed me. His first concern was that I had discovered it. "You invaded my privacy," he said. "You had no right." I almost laughed. "You recorded me in my own home," I said. "You shared private moments with your friends. You lied about money. You brought another woman into my apartment. It was stupid talk," he said quickly. "Guys say dumb things." Brenda shook her head. "You called her names," she said. Her voice was quiet and broken. "After everything she did for you." "Mum, you don't understand." "I understand enough." Stuart looked toward Uncle Richard. "Tell them. Come on." Richard's expression did not change. "You used your job as an excuse to lie to her," he said, "and you made me part of that lie without my knowledge." Stuart started talking faster, trying to explain everything at once. He blamed his friends. He blamed stress. He blamed alcohol for some messages. He blamed me for being too sensitive. Every explanation made him look worse. Finally, my father stood. "This evening is over for you," he said. No one threatened him. No one needed to. Stuart looked around the room and realized there was no one left to charm. Then his eyes moved toward the wrapped gifts near the Christmas tree. For one unbelievable second, I saw calculation return to his face. "What about my stuff?" he asked. I knew exactly what he meant. The chair, the gifts, the things he thought he had earned by pretending to love me. "There are no gifts for you," I said. His face twisted. "So this whole thing was a setup?" "No," I answered. "The setup was the last 9 months. Tonight was the truth." That sentence ended the argument. Stuart grabbed his coat. Before he left, he turned toward me as if he expected one last emotional reaction. Maybe tears, maybe anger, maybe a plea. I gave him nothing. The door closed behind him. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Brenda came to me. She apologized even though none of it was her fault. I hugged her. I could feel her crying against my shoulder. Uncle Richard told me he would speak to Stuart about his position at work. He was furious that Stuart had used the company as part of his financial lies. My mother took my hand. My father asked if I wanted to stay at their house that night. I said yes. That was the first time I admitted I was exhausted. I had been holding myself together for weeks. The performance was over. The next morning, Jasper came with me to the apartment. We made coffee and stood in the living room. Stuart's shoes were by the door. His clothes filled half my closet. His game controllers were beside the television. Every object reminded me that I had allowed someone into my life who had treated my love like a resource to consume. I did not throw his belongings into the street. I boxed them. Every shirt. Every pair of shoes. Every cable. Every bottle of cologne. Every hat. I labeled the boxes and sent Stuart one message through a temporary number. Your belongings are packed. Arrange a pickup through Jasper. Do not come inside the apartment. Then I changed the door code and contacted my building manager about the situation. The apartment felt strange after the boxes were moved near the entrance. Bigger, quieter. For the first time, that quiet didn't scare me. It felt clean. The days after Christmas were not as glamorous as revenge stories make them sound. I did not wake up feeling instantly healed. I still had moments when I remembered something good Stuart had done and wondered whether any of it had been real. I would open a cabinet and see the tea he liked. I would pass the restaurant where we had our first date. I would hear a joke and instinctively think about sending it to him. Then I would remember the group chat. Healing, I learned, is not one dramatic moment. It is 100 small decisions not to go backward. Rachel helped, Jasper helped, my family helped. Even Brenda sent me a long message apologizing again and telling me she understood if I never wanted contact with their family. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. Stuart's choices belonged to Stuart. A few days later, Jasper supervised the pickup of the boxes. I stayed at a coffee shop down the street. I did not watch. I didn't need one more dramatic scene. The fact that he was leaving my life was enough. I returned the gaming chair I had secretly bought after all. I also returned several other gifts that had been waiting in my closet. The refunds were larger than I expected. I used some of the money to book a quiet weekend away for myself. Nothing extravagant, no grand transformation. Just a hotel room, a massage, a long breakfast, and 2 days where nobody needed anything from me. For years I had associated love with giving time, giving money, giving patience, giving second chances. I had never stopped to ask whether the person receiving all of that was giving anything meaningful back. At work, I finally received the promotion I had been talking about in the voice recording Stuart mock. That mattered more than I expected. I remembered how excited I had sounded that night. He had heard my happiness and turned it into a joke. But his cruelty did not make my achievement smaller. In fact, standing in my manager's office and hearing the words, "You earned this," felt like reclaiming something he had tried to make me embarrassed about. A month after Christmas, an unknown number texted me. It was Stuart. He said he was using Jackson's phone. He wanted coffee. He said he needed closure. He said he knew he had made mistakes and believed we could talk through them. I read the message once. Then again, months earlier, I would have searched every sentence for hope. Now I saw something else. Not an apology. Access. He wanted access to my attention again. Access to my sympathy. Access to the version of me that always tried to understand. I did not reply. Instead, I took a screenshot and sent it to a small group chat with Rachel and Jasper. Then I typed the same sentence that had started everything. "Is that whale still talking?" 3 laughing emojis appeared almost immediately. And this time, I laughed too. Not because the insult was funny. It never was. I laughed because the sentence no longer had power over me. Once, it had made me feel humiliated in my own home. Now it was proof of how far I had come. I put my phone face down on my desk and returned to work. That evening, I drove home in my BMW, my car. I parked beneath my building and took the elevator to my floor. When I opened the apartment door, no television was playing. No one was waiting for me to cook. No one was asking to borrow my keys. No one was secretly recording my voice. The living room was quiet. For the first time in months, I noticed how beautiful it was. I made tea. I sat on the same charcoal, gray couch where I had discovered the first message. That couch used to feel like the place where my life cracked open. Now it felt like the place where I had finally started seeing clearly. I thought about the version of myself who had sat there on that Friday night, afraid to press play on a voice note. I wanted to tell her something. You are not about to lose your future. You are about to stop financing someone else's lie. The betrayal had hurt. The humiliation had hurt. Finding out that someone I loved had been laughing behind my back had changed the way I trusted people. But it also taught me the difference between kindness and self-abandonment. Kindness does not require you to ignore disrespect. Love does not require you to pay someone's way while they lie to your face. And loyalty does not mean staying silent when the truth is destroying you. Stuart thought I was easy to fool because I loved him. He confused generosity with weakness. He confused patience with blindness. He confused my desire for a future with desperation. He was wrong. The best revenge was not the Christmas presentation. It was not the returned gifts. It was not his embarrassed exit. The best revenge was that I stopped needing him to understand what he had done. I stopped needing an apology. I stopped needing closure from the person who created the wound. I built my own closure. Weeks passed, then months. The apartment changed slowly. I moved a chair, replaced a photograph, bought new sheets, filled the refrigerator with food I actually liked instead of whatever Stuart requested. Small things. But every small thing said the same thing. This life belongs to me again. One Saturday morning, sunlight filled the living room. I opened the windows and let cold air move through the apartment. My phone buzzed on the counter. For a second, old instinct told me to check whether it was him. Then I smiled. It was Rachel asking if I wanted brunch. I grabbed my coat and keys. Before leaving, I looked back at the room. There was no dramatic music, no final confrontation, no audience, just peace. And that was better than revenge. Because Stuart had spent months telling his friends that he was living like a king in my life. In the end, he lost the apartment, the car, the gifts, the relationship, and the version of me who would have done anything for him. I lost a liar. And I got myself back. When I closed the door behind me that morning, the silence on the other side was no longer empty. It sounded exactly like victory.